Hello, and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode number 468, talking with Derek Laporte tonight. We were having a little bit of issues hopping back and forth between StreamYard and Twitter on one space, and so we're just going to have him on video so he can be talked to and everyone can hear him all over the place. So I want to do a quick shout out to everyone joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, YouTube 2, Twitter, Rumble, Unlonely, and Kick and Telegram. And then joining us on stage in Twitter, we have Big P, Phil, Kadena, man. And so happy to have you on stage, Phil, as we talk with Derek and sort of break down what Derek is building out these days. Derek, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well. Yeah. Just getting off of the Thanksgiving spirit, so to speak, and finishing finishing all the leftovers today, finally. So, the last little bit of chicken off the bone and we're good good to go.
I don't know if I should be happy or depressed that your Thanksgiving leftovers lasted this long. I think
Yeah, I mean, just it was just a whole lot. It was a little overwhelming, to be honest, and I'm somebody who I will, put whatever just in a Tupperware, and I'll just keep it kind of for like a very long time in the fridge. So I was trying this time not to do that.
Yeah.
Trying to go through it, and not have it be in the back, and then, and a year from now be like, hey, what was this? What did this used to be before it turned into this?
Oh man, after traveling, came back to some of that in the fridge. Opened up the fridge door and yeah, no, that was not. I should have cleaned it out before hitting the road for almost a month. But yeah, no.
Yeah, so you've been on the road, right? Because that was kind of one of the things. Like I know that you just got back, and I kind of want to hear all about it, all about your trips.
Yeah, I know. It's been a minute since you and I talked, and so there's been been a long road for a minute. We had the last big conferences here in the stateside were like Permissionless in Austin, and the Permissionless Hackathon. Participated in that, then came back over to New York for Masari Mainnet. Got to meet a ton of cool projects. One of the coolest 30-second interviews I got to do was with Vivek Ramaswamy, U.S. presidential candidate. And when he launched his email campaign to learn about what people wanted to hear for his crypto policy. So I made a long email. I don't know. He launched his 3-part crypto policy during the North American Blockchain Conference in Fort Worth. I don't necessarily know if any of my words made it into there, but I talked about code being free a little bit, and that. So I don't want to say I had a word in it, but you never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I did use the word "the" a few times, and that word did make it into his policy. So maybe.
Well, there you go. All those connector words, and probably maybe even some Germanate and some Latinate words made it into that as well.
Some
Germanic.
periods.
Sorry, not Germanate. Germinate is a whole different thing.
You were growing. I thought you were just growing words there for a second, so I was going with it.
It's Germanic and Latinate. Those are the two primary words in English. Yeah. I say primary, but there's a lot of different other types of words.
Yeah, no. So after Masari Mainnet, there was the ETH Global and ETH Global Hackathon. Then there was like a half week of rest. Then Barcelona for SmartCon Hackathon, SmartCon Game Day, Game Pass, Game Conference, and then SmartCon itself. then there was like 2 days of relaxation in Barcelona. And then back to New York, and it was SBF trial, 5 weeks of that, every day being at the court, between like midnight and 4 a.m. to be able to make it into the courtroom, the main courtroom and everything like that. And then from there, it was pretty cool, then, ran off to a cabin in the woods sort of type of thing up to the Northeast and doing some stuff up there into New England. And so, and then just got back to New York yesterday.
Wow, wow, that's quite a trip. And on your trip, what would you say were some of kind of the most exciting, cutting edge projects or anything like coming out that you were like, wow, this is like way ahead of its time? Like, were there any that piqued your interest like that?
CCIP is a no-brainer. Cross-chain interoperability protocol from Chainlink being expanded from 5 chains to 17 to I think now 27 chains. It's one of those tools where no one knows how to. It's so cool. No one knows exactly how to use it yet.
Right.
And but the different possibilities that you could do are really cool in my mind. And then there is the idea of some of the stuff within distributed compute power. And so, a lot of the stuff that Solana is doing and what's coming out there with Fire Dancer and the amount of TPS that's going to be available once Fire Dancer launches, and the idea of distributed consensus across multiple languages, and in that case, programming languages. So not just one, but like, you have it consensus done in Rust, and you have like consensus done in TypeScript, and like consensus also done in like C++, just to help with that security layer, I guess, is really cool. Some of the AI stuff, there was some cool stuff from like, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but I pronounce it Tugen AI, where you can basically just give it any link to any video. Its AI will process that video and then write out a whole description, TLDR, for you from that video.
Wow.
So I think that's pretty cool. And some of the stuff that's being done with voice to text LLM stuff, which then reposts as commands, so full AI agents, basically bringing Star Trek to life of, you just talking to your computer and it doing whatever you want it to.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I had gone through and tried this was you say way back but like way back is like June, or like like that kind of time frame is way back now. But like I had tried some of those AI agents, like at the time where you had to basically get something off of, kind of get something off of GitHub, and you had to do quite a bit of stuff in order to get them up and running. And again, it was like the early days of it, but for sure you could see the possibilities of these things that could just kind of run all these, like just they would just ask you for a confirm of like a decision that they made, and you
yeah,
would just confirm it, and then it would just go through. And definitely there's a lot of possibility there. But I think one of the interesting things to harken back to today, because we, we talked a little bit about it earlier before this show, and that is the possibilities of you know, thinking about the future of like AI helping us and everything, but also thinking about how there will be certain people who will want that human touch to stuff, right? And the human factor still remaining within it, and how we might need to consider uh, possibilities of like companies raising up from just verification purposes of that kind of stuff, and from having from having manners in which they can say like, hey, so this this is a real person or not that you're dealing with. um, because other like we already know from our experience, right, that anytime you have to call customer service for some kind of product that you got, you tend to kind of want to talk to a human being, don't you? Like, you know, you kind of want that sometimes, because that's the more direct get around kind of method for things. And so I wonder if there's not going to be, we're not going to see at least some companies coming up with those kinds of things where it's like trying to insert definitive humanity into processes, um, and then you know kind of offset them with AI a little bit. Like, oh, AI does the little tasks in between.
Yeah. No, and I think that that's one of the scary things that people don't, I don't find it scary, but where people think that AI is going to be doing everything. And I'm like, no, it's really not. It's still gonna, everything's, a lot of things are still gonna need human. But it's just like, how to use a computer became a very basic tool and very basic knowledge piece. And so
Mm.
it's going to get it to a process to where people are interacting with AI and they don't know it. They just think they're talking to, they're following prompts themselves.
Right.
Have you
Right.
counted all the cans of tuna? How many
Yeah.
cans?
Yeah.
There's 41 cans. Are they priced at 41 cents a can? Yes. And then, then the AI on the back end will automatically know with shipping and everything like that. And, pricing it, it will be, then it could say something like, you can move this down to a smaller shelf or something like that, as it is less wanted or something like that, along those lines, and, or AI will, I don't know if they're thinking of this, but like, if you think of it from a standpoint of, if you went and physically, because AI is based off of language, information tokens. So if the tokens were, um, you know, labeled, amount of cans, and how many cans on the display and everything like that, and where they were, and then, AI, was sort of understood people's shopping methods enough, it might say, hey, rearrange the shelves like this, and it might
Yeah.
move or sell things differently, you know
Yeah.
so um
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And it is an interesting uh, it is an interesting thing, right? Because the whole they talk about the Chinese room thought experiment, right? Um, where somebody basically is inside the room and they're just copying something, and they don't actually know exactly what they're doing. They don't have that skill set. They just have like a book to look it up and
Yeah.
determine how it's basically no different from what a computer does, because it doesn't really, I mean, or well, I should say one of these large language models, right? They don't completely know what they're doing. They're just emulating something off of a given set of data that they have, right? They don't, it's not aware.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
there's
I mean, we may not even want that ever anyway, right? Like what the
yeah.
benefit of that, right? What is the benefit versus just having it being kind of the way that it is now, right? You know?
Do we want it smarter? Well, I know, there's Q star, that I forget the right term, but it's basically almost allowed to self-teach. So not only can it do elementary math, it can store that information when it's right, and it can learn and use that to grow new answers off of. I saw something that said that there's a worry that it could decide to not tell the truth, and that would be the right answer.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that becomes one of those things, right? Where you know, it's interesting because this whole thing came out. This was, I think, not this last weekend, but the weekend before, right? Was the big thing with Sam Altman and getting kicked out as a CEO and then rehired after like 3 or 4 days after the backlash.
No,
So
hired by Microsoft. Yeah, no,
hired
that
by
was interesting.
Microsoft and then back into OpenAI, right?
Yeah.
Um, I there was an article, and I think it was like Washington Post or one of those. I can't remember which, but there was an article about the fact that like um, one of the latest things that they were really excited about, that he was really excited about in the company, was they were having something with a like kind of a definitive single answer, like math, like large math models, right? Where the excitement, of course, being that mathematics, there's only one right answer, right? Right now, if you go to like one of these large language models, you go to ChatGPT, you ask it the same question several times, it's going to give you a different answer each time, right? There's not,
Yep.
it doesn't arrive at a this is the correct thing necessarily, right? And that's been kind of a problem with it, right? Is the fact that it doesn't decide on what the right answer is and then reproduce that to everyone who asks, right? So this is like, I guess it came out that he was excited about some sort of thing that inside they have that they were excited about, kind of like a breakthrough that allowed it to, I guess, have a definitive answer to something. And then shortly, like they say that the next day after this, the talk or something, he was actually like fired. So they don't know if that was the reason. Of course, that's all speculation stuff, and you'd have to work there to even know, right? But
I think I saw that article where it was sort of saying something along the lines that it it had made its own little AI or something, reinforceable AI inside of itself. Is that the same article?
that might have been a different one. I mean,
Okay.
that's, and
And
again,
then yeah, the
that's
same, yeah,
possible.
they
Like,
used the same process of eliminate, like, and as soon as this was found out, the next day he was fired or something like that.
yeah, I mean, there is the thing. Like, it's always been kind of a thing that we've concerned ourselves, right, with is, what is it? I think it's is it the von Neumann probe? It's like a self-replicating probe that basically goes out into space, finds all of like the materials because it's programmed to, create another copy of itself, and it just does that forever. Um, as long as it can find those materials. And then, of course, it just searches further and further for those materials. But so that's always been a concern, right? Because then you would just end up with like a universe filled with those things. Um, but yeah, so I could see, so any little thing, right? Like chaos theory tells us any little thing, right, could potentially cause a disaster. So those types of things definitely do need to be thought about. But that being said, like right now, AI is, so these large language models, there's not really that much to be scared about yet, right? Because they don't they don't have they can't they don't have that awareness, and they can't really do that kind of stuff. They're just kind of like, they're reproducing things they don't really understand, right?
Yeah.
So
And well, and we have that, and to a point right now, machines making machines, but there's a human element to it, and so
Yeah.
it's not like the concept is foreign, and with with von Neumann, piece, there's variables you can always throw into it to where um one, it makes its own self-replicator, and then and then the second spacecraft it makes is another probe, and then that probe goes, and so then the replicators sort of expand, but so do the probes at the same time, you
Yeah.
know um and so there's
Yeah,
different ways.
that sounds like some game stuff right there. Like you make the factory to make the probes faster, and you
Yeah,
pay the extra money for that. Like you pay your extra like diamonds so you can get that going faster.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
like
yeah,
it makes another probe maker, and then it makes a probe, and then that probe will make another probe maker, and then another probe, and they sort of go off, and like frog hop and exponentially go out. But if you're thinking about it, you know if you've ever built the same thing over and over again, a couple things happen.
yeah,
One, you get faster building them, obviously, with a machine that it can't learn how to make it faster, but you never know at that, if it's at that scale, it might make a decision like this piece isn't actually needed to build it, you know? And so how many games of operator to where the original is nowhere, the last in line is nowhere near the original.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
especially if it can't find the material it needs, you know?
right. Well, there's a thing too of like, the original, right? The original definition of a meme, right? What a meme is from the Dawkins book, and what he meant by a meme in that book is kind of like this thing like because it's a counterpoint to biological evolution, right? So it's like what is the evolution of a thing like created by people through time, right? What is the evolution of that? Like, so an example of what a meme would be a chair, right? So what is a chair that we have now? We now have decided over building chairs that we should probably have four legs on them, right? So that they're so that they're pretty secure. We don't have a two-legged chair usually. Um, and if we do, we're probably falling over. But we've decided that because all of the bad designs of chairs have fallen away, and all the good designs of chairs have then been replicated by other people who said, "Hey, that's a good design of a chair. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to add this." So I wonder if there's not eventually, when they're programming these things, eventually they say like, okay, you need to arrive at the optimal, and then you just need to do that and not continue to go beyond optimal because then you get those situations in which you do have like you are going to have some major problems, like then you get the too spicy ramen, right? And as as we've seen in the threads or in the Twitter threads lately, like the the iterations on the iterations on the iterations on the iterations and how ridiculous it gets.
Yeah. Well, it can get spicy, and then it's like that slap in the face. You're like, that's just a naked dick pic now, you know?
Is that
Uh,
I didn't see that one. I didn't see that, but I got my NSFW like I haven't switched that thing over because I don't want to have the I don't want to have the full like Monty necessarily, just in case.
yeah. Um, so let's roll back for just a second. We've known each other
Yeah.
for a while now, but for those that are joining in or listening in later, Derek, who are you?
Oh yeah. So so that's a good point. Hey, so I'm Derek Laporte. Um, I've been so I was a film director early on in my career. I've designed video games. Um, I've worked in Web3. I basically have done both of those things. And the latest thing, I've always prided myself on being a storyteller, right? That's kind of one of the things that I always felt like uh, felt like I had a natural affinity for. Um, and so the latest thing that I have been kind of delving into is um, uh, pure storytelling, right? Writing. So I wrote my first novel over the last few months, and then I just so today ends November, and in the November is National like novel write a novel in a month. uh, and I participated in that as well. But yeah, I've been in the space, I guess, since geez, I don't know how long have we been in the space?
I've
Like
been in this
Taco?
space for over a decade. So how
Well,
long have you
yeah.
been
Well,
here?
I mean, if yeah, I guess if I counted, the first time that I bought a coin, I would go back further. But as far as like actively like working on something in the space, for me it was probably since 2021. So like 2 years, over 2 years,
Okay.
2.5 years, two
And
and a half
end of
years.
yeah, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, for Taco Cat being your first project.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
I don't think
Those were
I
days
wasn't
ago.
on it then though, not at the initial, like way,
Okay.
not like, it was, I think it was 2021. It was like April, May, something like that. April, I think. Yeah. April of
Okay.
2021. Yeah.
Nice. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and you say all these dates and it feels like 10, 15 years ago. Like, because like yeah, the last couple of months, like I told you, and I have been I've been having kind of my head down and hunkered down and doing stuff and working on another game kind of in stealth. And so I haven't been listening to spaces. I haven't checked X every day. And really, like I told you, I'm like, man, I like it only takes like just a week, and like you're like, wait, what happened? You know, it's like everything moves so fast in the space, which is fantastic because obviously, like innovation has to move fast. Um, but it also is kind of like it's kind of like one of those things where like you have to stay on it all the time, otherwise you miss some of the details, and you're playing catch up a little bit.
Yeah. It's even a week sometimes people, I respond, to something a week later and someone's like, oh, that's already, that's dead, or that's already been figured out, or
Yeah,
it's like, something completely new has moved on. And let's see here in the last month, what big things have happened. um Stars Arena got like hacked.
yeah.
um and then there was some possible shady stuff between Ava Labs and Stars Arena.
Wow.
um
Okay,
then
I
Stars
didn't know
Arena got,
anything about that.
I'll get to that. I have a thought on that.
Okay, perfect.
Then Stars Arena got relaunched, taken over by a new CEO, and the old team is out, and some new stuff is in. Um, and then let's see here. Um,
Shrapnel. I heard some things about shrapnel
oh
either
yeah,
yesterday or today, something about like some kind of lawsuit going on. at
Oh, really?
Shrapnel, and yeah, something involving the founders or CEO or something. They're they're suing each other. One of them's wanting to basically kind of like I don't know. Again, grain of salt, right? Because it's all, post on X, right? So
Yeah.
um, but one of them, like someone saying basically it's kind of like an attempted hostile takeover,
Yeah.
but through the legal system, I guess. So I don't know how that works. Although, that is kind of the classic way, right? Take it to court and then let them decide what to do, I guess. But yeah,
Man.
that was the latest one I heard, and it all, like, it was odd because, like, I had not been seeing them much, like, on the little bit that I check. I had not been seeing them on the feed, and then I saw them mentioned quite a bit yesterday, and then but then this, I think this came out either yesterday or today. I can't recall which,
Have
but
have
yeah.
you have you played Shrapnel yet?
No, I haven't. I've seen, like, I've seen the videos, and but I have not ever had a chance to play it. Have you?
I haven't played it yet, but so this is my funny tie to Shrapnel. And now that there's a lawsuit, I'm actually going and looking at my NFTs real quick, like a Degen does, you know, um,
Right, right.
trying to see what, because
Get that lawsuit bump,
yeah,
that
either a
bump. It
lawsuit
all
bump
goes
or that
valuable
lawsuit dump.
when people are suing everybody, then your value goes up, right? That's the way that works.
Yeah, something like that, you know, or you think your value is up. Um, but let's see. But so no, when was it? Let's see here. August, June. Um, I think it was June. A friend uh gave me a tip on an NFT
Hmm.
that wasn't moving around. It was from an unnamed collection, and they were $4 a piece. Um, and I was like, okay, cool. I think I bought like 5 of them or something like that. And then I forgot about them. Then I was at Permissionless, and Shrapnel had a booth there. And I was watching the gameplay. I was talking with some of the core devs, because they were hosting a whole network right there, and sort of what they were doing with that. And then I like was watching the video, and they had their Shrapnel Power Pack come up, and I
Hmm.
was like, I recognize that, and I was like, no, hold on a second, like oh yeah, um, I'm looking, yeah, the Shrapner container units, and yeah. So right now, this is hilarious because I ended up selling one of them, like, and so they had upgraded the NFT, made it all 3D and moving, and updated the name collection and everything like that. And then they started to move, and I was like, cool. I sold one for I think it was like $16. And then I sold the second one for like $25. And right now, the floor is 69 Matic. So like what, 55
Yeah,
bucks there,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
like, I sort of wish I had bought a whole bunch more.
yeah. It's, you know, the thing is that I think with a lot of these kind of Web3 game companies, I the thing I enjoy about game development is I enjoy the process of making something, and and then testing it and seeing if people like it, and then if they don't, right, like finding out what they don't like and then changing it and then continually iterating on that until you arrive at something that like people really like, you know?
Yeah.
It's the only industry where you can do that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm now going to take that back a little bit because, like I said, I wrote a novel, and actually you can kind of change almost everything that you want to, right, with a novel, and pretty easily do so if a beta reader gives you like an idea. But anyway, but mostly it's the only industry that you can do that with. You can't do that with film, right?
Yeah.
You can go and you do reshoots, but like the studio will never let you completely reshoot a movie. They would just scrap it and take the loss, you know. So um so it's the only thing where you can do that. And that's fun, right? And the thing is the process, I don't think in a lot of cases the process has not gotten better from the business and speculative side of Web3, right? It hasn't improved on that process.
Yeah.
I think that Web3 its goal should be improving on that process, or making that process the best it can be, and then reaching, you know, and then actually having people who are fans be able to affect a game to make it better. And to me, like news like this comes out of shrapnel. This just comes from like, this is like people that are like business, like they own businesses before. They decided like, hey, the hot new thing right now, right, is Web3 gaming. Let's make a game. And then but it's not, it doesn't feel like, it feels like money grabs instead of passion, you know. um, and I think that bleeds through to the investor, you know, to the people who buy this stuff. That's the reason why you have like these kind of issues like that, is like, because you know, this lawsuit is not happening because, you know, somebody was like, hey, well, you know, I think that we should be running at 60 frames per second, actually, instead of our current FPS.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. So, you know, it's
You're
not
using
stuff like
you're
that,
using the
right?
wrong game engine. Your physics are off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not so, or it's not like stuff like, hey, you know, we really need to add like, you know, we need to really add like a new bad guy to it or something. We don't have enough of a solid of a bad guy. It's not that. It's like, hey, this is my cash cow, not yours, you know, like, and I want everything for me and nothing for you, is like that mentality, right? That again is poisonous, and you end up with stuff happening like this
Yeah.
because you know, ultimately ultimately people are kind of, you know, a little bit bitter towards each other often, you know, and they don't make business decisions based upon, you know, business and thinking of even the customer in this situation, you
Yeah.
know, because absolutely this is not good for the holder of any of those assets, you know. This
Yeah.
is this doesn't benefit the, you know, okay, maybe I think it benefits you in the long run, but you know, I don't know. It just seems wrong-headed, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those questions, um, where the direction of, and so what's really weird, you might, and I think you can attest to this. It seems like when things are bare and when things are tight, that's when teams like build and get together. But like
Yeah.
unprepared for success seems to tear teams apart.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. I mean, I think both things are different issues, right? They're both issues, but they do kind of uh, make make things different, you know. As long as I think as long as the funds are there for like the development team and stuff during a bear, it's not necessarily that bad.
Yeah.
Because maybe in a lot of cases they can focus more on product at the time, but you know it can still be an issue because you know if they are like if they're in their testing phase by then attracting people in Web3 especially during a bear is a lot more difficult than it would be if you know during a bull everybody would be excited, people would be playing your game, you'd have like you know you're you would have like a lot of people playing your game and then you would get a lot of great feedback, you know. So they're just different issues at different times, right? But it is definitely you to be in a bear and have this kind of issue at that time for sure. Like and you know I hope that they can figure it out because the product looks great, you know. Ultimately the product looks great.
Yeah.
And I you know it's props to them that they got something that looks so good. They managed to get it to this point. Is it what is it? Is it playable in like an
It's a
alpha? What is it?
Yep, it's a first person shooter, playable. You know, there's multiple different aspects of things, I guess, you know, to assets to buy and
Okay.
own. You know, but like you said, it's, you know, yeah, there can be a lot of different ways that teams get torn apart on this.
Yeah.
But I don't, for me right now, I haven't been, the only first person shooter I've really been into right now is BR1, Bravo Ready Alpha by
Okay.
I think you might have seen them. They had a booth at 3XP. So you might have
Oh.
seen them, but I know you were working the booth, so you
Yeah,
know you would
I
not have.
was like I didn't really get a chance to tool around much. I was yeah, there with players all day, but
Yeah.
yeah, Bravo Ready one. What chain are they on? What is the
Solana.
Solana? Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
And so what it is it's pay to spawn, get paid to kill.
Pay to spawn, get paid to kill. Okay, so basically, okay.
You pay
I'm
10
sorry,
cents
I'm
to
doing the math in my head already.
you
See
get
that?
paid 10 cents to join a game. You
Yeah.
get paid 10 cents for every person you kill.
Okay.
You know,
Oh, that's cool.
and
Yeah,
as they
I
roll
like
out
that. I like that idea.
their Adventure Island sort of piece to it, not you. So you not if you kill someone that's killed a bunch of other people, you get part of their money.
Okay. Well, when are we gonna have like when are we gonna pay people to just be mid? When is that coming along? When is that product coming out?
To just
Because
be mid.
yeah, just be mid.
You can pay me to do that right now. I'll just do that.
I'll be mid. I'll be mid. I'll
Yeah,
get like 5 kills and die 5 times.
yeah, you know, and then he break even. You know,
I'm a break even kind of person. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
can
I
I make
wasn't
enough to
letting
play
my
again?
team down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the cool, like that's one of the mechanics that they have in it is, you know, like let's say you have 10 cents to your name, you get in
Yeah.
there and you kill one person, you get 10 cents, so you made enough to play another game.
They should introduce like, okay, so yeah, you know, here we go, you know, giving out the ideas here, but they should introduce a push your luck element to it, so that like, you know, like each kill you get, you can push your luck, and then if you push your luck, you get like everybody sees you on their mini map, like your location,
Okay.
um, and then each time you do that then it goes up by like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or something. So, so you can really put, like, if you're really good, you can really push your luck, and then you'll just always be on the mini map, and but you'll make more money, right? That would be interesting. That would be a
Okay.
pretty interesting thing. Obviously, like, the problem is that the pot is what the pot is. So the whole push your luck thing wouldn't work if winnings are just based upon the pot that goes into it. But
Yeah.
you know, but that
Hey,
would be fun. I like
there
push your
could be
luck.
a way for that, and like instead of you paying 10 cents, you pay 11 cents to get in or something like that. So that way you can, but it
Yeah,
might
there
get
you
to
go.
the point to where if you pop up on the mini map, everyone runs away from you rather than comes towards you.
Um, yeah, I mean, that could be a thing too. I mean, well,
Yeah. Oh,
there's
cool.
always downsides of these things, but this is the joy of game development, is being able to test it, right? And say, like, okay, what's that perfect middle ground, and like, if the downside is this, what is the upside, like those kinds of things, right?
Yeah. So, and I don't know. Do you want to talk about TC at all and that journey?
Um,
As you built, as you learn new things, like what were some of the pitfalls you learned, or like the little
yeah, no, for
tips and
sure. Like,
tricks you learned
yeah,
that
I
made you
mean,
better?
I would say that, yeah, I can talk about, it. So I think that anytime you're coming, so game development, right, is already a pretty interesting but difficult road, right? To make a great game is very hard. You might, there's a reason why a lot of games that are straight up clones of other games are still not fun, right? Fun is kind of this amorphous kind of thing that you have to just continually seek out, and in order to find it, you don't know it until you kind of land on it, really, right? You can try different things. You can kind of go based upon some game theory, not game theory, but game design theory, I should say. Um, you know, and uh, and I think that, um, and you can eventually, like, land on that kind of thing. But I think that one of the key things, right, is you need to have, uh, if somebody's starting to make a game out there, right, they need to consider going ahead and, like, building up a group of people to test it, right? Close knit group of testers. And you can almost have, like, that group of testers, that group of people who believe in the product before you even start to deliver anything. That's
Hmm.
kind of ideal, because in a lot of cases, um, if you don't have them every step of the way, you are having you're having to make you're having then to try and get them kind of after the fact, right? And then you're going to have, I think, a lot more competition than if you're starting something, because we all like to have input, right? On we like to come up with an idea, and then we mention someone an idea, and then we see, like, oh, they incorporated this idea. That feels really good, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the whole thing of Web3 gaming is to have that, right? Is to have that kind of, like, closeness of a dev team to the players. Um, I think that for for me, again, a lot of the ideas, right, that were there, we never arrived kind of at all of them in, like, a perfect synergy of things. And but then there was the pressure to get it out there for people to see and enjoy and everything like that. But then when it's getting out there, and this is just across Web3, right? Is you're releasing alphas, you're releasing betas, you're releasing these things, and you're hoping that people are like, okay, don't worry, there's that this is like a this is an early access kind of game, right? Um,
Yeah.
so, but really, like as a game developer, you kind of hate to do that because it's like your baby. You don't want people to see your baby until you're proud of it, right? Well, actually, probably you should be proud of your baby anyway. So that's not a good example, but imagine if it was your ugly baby. Let's put it that way, right? It's your ugly baby, and you're like, well, one day it will become a pretty baby, maybe, or we'll see. But
Maybe. Who knows?
maybe, who knows?
The ears
And
come in, the
it's it.
nose, and then,
Yeah,
well, hey,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the
You don't want
classic.
to.
That's the classic Disney story, isn't it? Too, the ugly duckling.
Yeah, the ugly duckling. Yeah, yeah. The ugly duckling is yeah. Or like it's your frog prince. You don't want to introduce it as a frog.
Yeah.
No, you want to say like, because the whole reason why what happens to the frog prince happens to the frog prince is because somebody actually believes that, he's not just going to be a frog forever. But there's only one person who believed that. And that's the whole point, right? Is that only one person believed it. Or Beauty and the Beast. That's another example.
Well, that's two different people. I
Yeah,
think.
that's true.
Yeah, I think ugly duckling might be the closest piece to it, but then, um, or
I'm
the
struggling
classic,
for an analogy. Yeah,
the
it's true.
classic high school misfit, that gets the makeover.
Ah, yeah. Well, I
You know,
mean, you can't say she's all that or whatever that movie was because it's literally like she takes the glasses off and that's.
Mean Girls. And on
Yeah,
Wednesdays we wear pink.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think
69% chance
just
of it raining.
yeah, I think that like honestly like so I think the best way in to do stuff is if you're wanting to start like game development, or something like that, you should probably do a whole bunch of game jams, get your own skills up, find another group of people who like the same kinds of games that you do, and to develop the same kinds of games that you do, and then revenue split, like do a straight up just like revenue split. But in my head there's an idea for like a better version of revenue split than just normal revenue split, um, because normal revenue split tends to lead to like people who just came together as a team. They might say, I put in this number of hours, that person put in less hours, and those kinds of things. So figuring out like, so there's a type of revenue split you could do where it is like an hourly based kind of thing, right? So that if somebody doesn't pull their weight, then they're actually the percentage of what they make and the revenue thing goes down. And so I
But
would
I,
recommend
do you
that
think
kind of
though that
style.
I'm going to argue that point, because what happened if you have someone who's a better coder and they get done in an hour what would take someone 5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, and there is that discussion of that, but what I'm talking about is with like a team. I'm not even talking about a big team yet, right? I'm talking
Yeah,
about a core team of like
4.
maybe four people, right? Where one person is handling each task, right? So you've got one person handling art, you've got one person handling, the coding side of things. You've got somebody who's like a designer, and they're probably hopping over and doing UI stuff, and then you've got maybe like an animator, or maybe a second coder. You might want to have a second coder. That's probably better, especially with Web3. You at least probably need one Web3 guy too, from the get-go,
Or 2.
because yeah, one or two. I mean, on a team of four, you probably want you probably want even your other coder to be somebody who can hop back and forth, which is that's not that hard to find either. You can find that. You
Yeah.
know,
And
um,
and do you feel that that from a developer standpoint or from a core team, that starting off harder, going full React, rather than, with like Webflow or anything like that, gives you a better basis for the future?
I mean, and it really depends on the situation. I have to be completely honest. Like, and that also comes down to the skills of the people involved in the first iteration, right? Because there might be and there's a lot of ifs with this, right? Because maybe your whole thing is like, okay, I'm going to get this to a prototype, and then I'm going to try to raise funds based upon that. So then we can, then we can at least have some like runway money. And so you might, in that, you might be selecting not necessarily the most operative, but you're selecting the quickest, right? The most time efficient way to get to that prototype. Because ultimately, if you are like, if you're starting it as a passion project with like a group of like 3 other people,
Yeah.
um, unless you manage to get a grant from the get-go without having any product to show at all, which is, which has happened in the past, right? But that's
Yeah.
usually kind of a bull cycle thing. But unless you're doing that, then you're probably all the time in which you're kind of, everyone's kind of like in it for the passion and not not getting not getting paid for a while they're making that prototype, right? And so you want to kind of mitigate that, right? Minimize the amount of time that's happening,
Yeah.
so
And I know one of the hardest things I saw you have to go through, where you got a lot of community help, was naming of assets.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like yeah, naming of assets is a good thing too, right? Like that could be another thing too, where like, you want to give people something, uh and creative input is good on those kinds of things. Like, don't, you know, um you know, probably it's better to not stress yourself out too much about naming of assets. Or do, if you're certain
Yeah.
certain neurotic people.
Are
Yeah, right.
no, good people, good
Good
people, like
people.
they
Yeah,
like
yeah,
above and beyond.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I think, like even like the core community that those testers are, or those players are, can become both your largest critics and your biggest advocates. And
yeah,
even sometimes they're your biggest advocates when they're their loudest critics, because it's not like they disappeared. They're taking the
yeah.
time to,
Right.
they're not going anywhere. And But it's sort of cool to see how something like that can grow. So
Yeah,
um, you talked about writing a book this past month,
yeah,
or well, finishing your book, because you've been writing it for a little bit, or did you
yeah.
write it all within November?
No, so I wrote it. I wrote it over probably like, uh, I think I got the first draft done in like 2.5 months. So like 2.5 months. Um, that's a first draft. It was like, I think it was around 70,000 words was
Yeah.
where it ended up. Um, which just a novel is anything over 50,000 is considered a novel. Um,
Okay. What is under 50,000?
a novella, right?
A
So
novella.
you can have a
Okay.
novella, and then once it gets, I think it's novella is anything between 20,000 and 50,000, and then below that is considered short story.
Okay.
Although I think some short stories run like 22,000 words, so it kind of, it's a little down there. It's a little like it's shifty down there as far
Is
as
there
the word count.
is there anything over a novel? So like if I
No,
write
no, no. Even
70,
if you,
150,000 words, it just becomes
it's
a
still a
tomb.
novel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's yeah, you've wrote a Neil Stevenson novel, right, at that point, right? Because
I,
all of his are like, I've got a copy of an Anthem here, uh, and it is huge. Like it's a hardcover copy, and it's just so noticeable on the shelf just because it's so thick. Like,
yeah.
but all of his novels are that way. But no, like there's no top end to a novel. Um,
Okay. I was gonna say I
cause,
took a
'cause
Stephen King approach to describing the tree.
right, right,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I just like 3 pages of tree description because
Yeah.
it's going to be real important later. I don't know. I started reading Moby Dick also, and I still have to finish it. I'm about at page 350. So they say that the last 100 pages of it goes very fast. I'm still deep into like information about whales. So
Okay.
and struggling through some portions of it, but it's beautifully written, of course, and it's a fantastic book. But but it will bite back a little bit. Um, but yeah, no. So it's interesting because I've learned a lot about the publishing process over the last several months of doing this and doing the editing and whatnot. And one of the things, one of the biggest things that I've learned is, well, I've learned that so, and this kind of ties us back to the first thing we were talking about, um, particularly like the publishing industry and a lot of these magazines that you might send short stories to or do those kinds of things. They are, they have like specific things about you not having any AI help with a novel at all or with a story at all.
Yeah.
Um, and if they determine that you did, then they will ban you from being able to submit future works to like a magazine or something like that, right?
How do they okay.
They probably run it through that thing. There's a website, right, that you can run it through, and then it'll give you a percentage chance that something was written with AI. But yeah, I mean, it is a bit difficult because you know you can't determine exactly if something has been partially. You can tell if something's been written by AI, but you
Yeah.
can't tell if someone has used AI for something. And the other thing that's interesting too is, right, like Grammarly, does that count? Like, I mean, that
Yeah.
just tells you like, hey, you're using the wrong year here, which obviously is probably not a thing that you're saving a little bit of money on a copy editor later. So,
Yeah.
um, but
Or
but
if you use Quill to rewrite a sentence, a couple different ways to see how it might flow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I I'm not familiar with Quill. But I have like looked at like I have looked at like Grammarly and those kinds of things, and you know, that just kind of like they underline the word like red or something
Yeah.
if.
Yeah.
Um,
Auto check
yeah,
or spell
yeah.
check. Yeah.
Spell check, right? Yeah, spell
Yeah.
check is a kind of, I guess it's not, I guess it's kind of an AI. It's
Well,
reading the
they're
word.
what's funny is they're integrating those things without us even like giving the permission for them to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because they, with what there's the running joke, Clippy is going to be the new AI.
Yeah.
How may I
Yeah.
serve you today?
Yeah.
I
No, so
looks like you're trying to do this. It looks like you're trying to write a book. Want me to write it for you?
yeah,
Well, and
right.
and see, this is like this is where I think part of it can be really contentious is especially in the gaming industry. Um, I know a lot of times some people were like they would write out their own features of a monster and then they would put those, put that into AI to see what it would spit out for storyboard, just ideas,
Hmm.
and then that, whether that looked anything like the creature that they ended up going with and designing, or just using it for like base imagery and stuff.
Right.
um I think Steam took a really heavy approach to that, um because the language is sort of absolute, like you were saying with writing, that they're no longer allowing games that in any way have been created in any way, shape, or form by AI, but they
Yeah.
don't clearly, okay, did AI check the code? Did AI, help with the storyboard or make images for the pitch deck? You know,
Yeah.
uh, did they use AI for responding to emails about the game building or something like
Yeah.
that? Like an AI CRM,
Right.
CRM, and so when you take those really blanket
It's
approaches, it stifles, I think.
yeah. And well, and the other thing is that in general there is a lot of like, and this is for sure in the games, the game industry right now, which is, so I do like a monthly meeting with several of the studios here in Los Angeles. One of them actually recently came out of stealth. I'll talk about that in a minute because I think it's pretty exciting. It's not a Web3 game
Mhm.
company, but or game studio, but it's still one people should be excited about. But anyway, there was a whole the first one I attended. There was a whole kind of discussion about AI, and they were kind of like I with the little bit that I knew, you know, uh, uh, I would say that I was still probably one of like the three people there that knew the most. And this is like normal. This is normal game studios here. They really had not, and this is HR companies within it too. And so they had not even, uh, they were kind of skeptical about it, so they really had not researched much into it, the possibilities of what it could even help them do. Um, Even though I do feel like in a lot of cases, some HR things do use this anyway, right? For like going through resumes and trying to cull some of those out before they actually go to anybody's desk, um, but yeah, it's kind of it's fascinating, right? It's fascinating the initial skepticism towards it. Um, I do think that one of the big concerns, and possibly it's a valid one, and actually for sure it's a valid one, which is copyright issues, right?
Mhm.
Um, Copyright issues with AI stuff like is a valid thing. So any studio, any normal game studio, they're going to want the rights to everything because if they pay for it, they want to make sure that it's under under that there's no issues. They pay a they pay an artist to even do concept art. They want to make sure because they don't know, especially early in, they don't know what they're going to use, what they're not going to use. um, so they don't want to have any kinds of those questions like that, and until those kinds of things are solved, and where it's like, okay, this is this is, you don't have to worry, this is also not copying somebody else's work, right? This is not an iteration of some other like famous painting or famous work by somebody. um, then I think there's gonna be that skepticism, right? And they're gonna say, you know what, we don't want to involve legal, so we would just rather, we would rather have humans do this kind of stuff. And so I think I think that has a lot to do with the thinking. That definitely has a lot to do with the publishing industry thinking about it, right? Because they don't want issues with, you know, plagiarism from these AI things that are rewriting. Like, where does, you know, they're concerned about where does that come from? You know, where are these words that are put together? Where is it coming from? You know,
Yeah.
um, I
There's a crazy piece to it, of worry, I guess, on plagiarism, but derivatives, you know.
yeah
Um, and I was listening. I was planning on being in DC right now for a regulatory conference that also had the day before an AI conference with Axios. And there was a musician that was talking about what he's doing sort of with AI and how he's having it like try to help him find like, like a melody tune or something like that, or like what should I do for a bass piece here type of thing. And he was saying that like music in AI was just horrible. Like you ask it to write a song or a limerick,
yeah
cool, it will make it, but it has like no rhyme or reason, unless you add in the style of, and
right
then it will come out like them. And so,
right
you know, I know I don't know if anyone's done this yet. I'm really like, what happened if I ask, ChatGPT to write a song in the style of Willie Nelson and Eminem?
yeah like this is yeah it's a valid thing. I and that's the
I
thing
don't
that
know. Give me
tells
a
you.
topic. Give me a topic
Okay,
here.
okay, yeah, wait, a topic or a song? Why don't you just
Give
do
me.
that like you said?
I
Write
am, but write it, in the style of Willie Nelson and Eminem about what?
about let me see, about my dog dying and my truck getting lost. I don't know.
Okay, of Willie Nelson
That's
and
much more closer to Willie Nelson than Eminem. I should have put the two together about, yeah, about having a problematic mom and my dog dying.
okay. Uh, uh, let's see here. Let's see here. Um, Willie Nelson and Eminem. Um, if I could spell, that would be good. Wait, about Eminem, about my dog dying, and what was the other one?
Problematic mom. I mean, it should be able to just put two songs together pretty easy.
Problematic mom.
Yeah.
Okay, this will be interesting. Verse one, Willie Nelson style.
Okay. Oh wow, it's broke
Oh,
it down. It broke it down. It was supposed to put them more together. What the
it
heck?
did. It did.
Okay.
Oh,
All
okay.
right.
So verse one, Willie Nelson style. Well, my faithful hound has left this earth today with a heart so heavy, can't find the words to say. He was more than just a pup. He was my friend. His loyalty and love, they had no end. Chorus, Willie Nelson style. But now he's gone, chasing stars up high, leaving me here to mourn and cry. Oh, my dear old friend, you'll be missed. In my heart, your memory persists. Verse two, Eminem style. Yo, my dog was my homie, my loyal ride or die. His bark was like music, he never asked me why. But my mom, she's a puzzle, complicated and tough, always causing trouble, never had enough. She said I couldn't keep my dog around, her rules, her house, no common ground. But that pooch was family, he was part of me. Now he's gone, it's hard to see. Chorus, Eminem style. My mom and me, yeah, we clash and fight. She never understood. She just wants to ignite. Lost my dog, lost my mind. In this chaos, gotta find my kind. Bridge, Willie Nelson and Eminem blend.
Ooh.
Through the pain, through the strife, I'll hold on to memories, cherish his life. Mom's ways, they might cause distress, but my dog's love, it was the best. Outro Willie Nelson style. So here I am with a heavy heart, saying goodbye. We're worlds apart. To my dog, my friend, rest in peace. Your spirit lives on. May it never cease.
Wow. Wow.
That's yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it does a concentric idea based upon that, right? Which of
yeah,
course it would still do one, um, but yeah, let's definitely in the style of is giving it a lot more flavor, for sure.
yeah.
And that is again just a sign, yeah, for sure that it doesn't understand at all what it's doing, right? It's just
No,
emulating something. So it
yeah,
emulates, it doesn't create, right?
yeah. And I think if we broke that down a little bit, like I don't know, how would I break that down a little bit? Um, in the style of Willie Nelson to the beat of Eminem.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, you could say
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you could iterate on this like several times. I remember I was just like going through and looking at what it turns out like if you tell it to like, hey, write a script about like an AI overtaking the world, and of course it does, right? It'll
Yeah,
give you a
it does what
script
it's told.
about yeah, and you can even name that AI Chat GPT and it'll just go ahead with it, and it's like, okay, well, Chat GPT is taking over the world and blah, 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 blah. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, you don't understand what you're doing.
Have
You don't understand the ramifications of what you're doing, thing.
Have you played with Bard or Grok yet?
No, no. I Grok is the one that Musk did. Is that the one that Musk
Yeah.
did?
Yep. And then I haven't gotten into Q Star yet. But a new plugin I just got for ChatGPT that I haven't used yet is Wolfram.
Hmm.
Basically, it teaches my LLM physics,
Interesting. Huh.
and so then basically it can be used for anything in that regard.
Nice. So like any kind of physics thing that you could possibly
Yeah,
want.
or math. It has all
Yeah.
of these rules and tokens already pre-made and everything,
Yeah. Wonder if
which is
it will ever. I mean, I imagine eventually it'll happen, right? That it'll solve some of those big problems that we can't solve.
yeah,
Um, I imagine that's going to be kind of a thing that's eventually going to happen. And not only that, but like maybe maybe eventually AI and all this stuff will actually come up with a proper thing that like that like gives us a theory of everything that that applies at a quantum level uh, and 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 coincides with our physical realm. And not only that, but like it'll be able to figure out um, uh, many of the issues with uh, 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 our society as a whole, maybe. I guess I'm being hopeful in the moment right now. So,
yeah. Um, or
or it'll
it
kill us all. That's the
it just
solution.
it will spit out the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42.
That's probably what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah. But for sure, I it's a long way from doing a lot of those things that people are concerned about, right? I really think that it. I read a thing today because I guess SAG is considering going back on strike because the deal that they made with the studios is not very good. I heard that they still allow people to be scanned. So like the AI thing is still an issue with the SAG agreement that
Yeah.
they had with the studios. So you know, it is like more power to him, like because I think the fight is just because we shouldn't just accept the march of technology without at least somewhat like thinking about how these things are used, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I I'm one of those people who I always thought it was weird that like we've got like an FDA, right, that handles yeah, we've got a government thing, some government oversight into drugs and stuff that we put in our body, but we we have all this technology stuff that completely changes our lives and in some ways are, we people are addicted to to their phones and stuff like that, right? And we
Yeah.
don't have any type of body or thing that ever like looked into that and said like, well, now, let's let's think about these things before we just, give them right away to people.
So I
Let's at
I
least consider these things.
I saw, where did I like, I didn't think it out all the way through, but I saw part of this thread, and so I didn't read it all, and I thought about it a little bit. It's sort of a contentious issue based off of this, and I understand there's the issue with both actors and actresses, and writers, having roles taken over by AI or being scanned into things that they might not agree with or something like that.
Yeah.
But so someone's point of view was that they have a hard take on this. They're or hard, it's hard for them to digest it because what's literally just being made is stuff for entertainment value, that it has no real gain to society other than as a distraction. And what they had said, so if this allows movies to produce or production companies to make movies in half the time without putting people at risk, um, and this actor or actress gets half of the paycheck they would normally get, but they're in 5 times as many movies, you know, what's the real issue here? And I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a deeper a question than you can answer, but I know you're in the thick of it. So I
Well,
don't know if you've
I
seen
mean,
that or a better definition of that.
well, I would say that uh, the first off, I don't completely agree that entertainment is the only purpose of films or books or games or anything like that. That there is a more transcendental quality to it. That
Okay.
and that transcendental quality, of course, being what the art portion of it is, right?
Can you
Art is transcendental.
break down what you mean in that transcendental piece of that? So,
So there are the easiest probably ones to talk about probably are art, like ironically art video games, right? I think that those are the ones that are like the most easy to like make a case for anymore. And a good example being uh, well, one of them's This War of Mine. So have you ever played that game?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, the game is it's like a survival game, and it's extremely hard um, to survive, and you have to make choices about whether or not you trust people, whether like how, and you have to go out and try and get resources, and it all takes place in kind of like a war-torn country, right? And so it gives off like you could give like, that feeling and that understanding and then empathy, right, is not something that necessarily is entertainment, right? Empathy is not necessarily entertainment, right? I don't, those are kind of different things. There's a transcendental quality to empathy, to understanding the plight of another person that causes you to perhaps go and and it affects your life in some way and maybe changes you as a person. And maybe you go out there and you say, hey, I'm going to donate to something, that's doing good, like Red Cross doing good in war-torn countries and stuff, like because of something like that. There's another one, that one is a good example. That there's another game, I'm now blanking on what it is, but uh, it was about um, it's about like it's again another sad kind of. Oh, you know what? I can talk about Papers, Please. Probably Papers, Please is another good example of it, right?
Okay.
Where Papers, Please, and it's a game by Lucas Pope. Um, he also did the the Return of the Obra Dinn, I think is the name of it. Anyway, um, very good game designer. His what Papers, Please is about is it's a fictional country, and you are someone who works at the border of this country, and you check documents and you stamp passports to let people in or not let people in. And your country is like the country that you work in is like, the government is not democratic at all, right? Like not a good example of a good government. So what they have done, but what the game does, in addition to giving you pressure coming from on high about like, hey, you need to stamp these things because if you let the wrong people in, they're gonna, they're gonna try and do bad stuff in our country, kind of thing, right? Like, um, they also put your family, just family members, like your mom, your dad, stuff like that, inside of a hotel that's there near the border crossing. And so very simply, it gives you this feeling about you having to make the decision for your loved ones like that, and the pressure that someone who might, for instance, be in that kind of governmental situation, right? With that kind of pressure on them, like how that might feel. And again, it builds kind of that empathy within you, right? Which is somewhat transcendental quality.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't have to just be empathy, but empathy is probably the easiest one to argue to be a transcendental quality of something that is kind of beyond entertainment. Um, and it because because every movie tries to like do the minimum amount of empathy if it's like trying for entertainment. They just want you to like care enough about a character to like watch the movie. If it's
Yeah.
just like Adam Sandler thing or something, right?
Yeah. They make them. I think like there's the classic first 10 minutes of a movie. The main character does at least one or two awkward things to make you sort of like tie into them. You know,
Yeah,
to make them like seem a little bit more human. Um, whether it's um, you know some if it's like a billionaire that like everything is sharp and styled and everything like that, it's something as silly as like a nicking themselves while shaving to you know um, tying their shoe in a knot, or something relatable, you know
yeah, yeah,
um, and so then it bonds you emotionally quickly, but it's that they want that emotional bond to last for 2.5 hours and a sequel.
right, right. Yeah, it's funny because like like movies for sure, like it is much harder for you to argue that like there are art films for sure. There's a lot of films that I would classify as art films. Um, but for sure they're not the they're definitely not the bulk out there. There is so you're talking about like empathy or not empathy, but like connecting to a character at the
Yeah.
beginning of a movie. one of my favorite examples from like when Hollywood got it right in a piece of entertainment doing that is uh, the first Taken movie. So in the first Taken movie, like what they do that's so good and so succinct and gets you connected to Liam Neeson's characters. He, if you remember his daughter, right? So his wife has remarried,
Yep.
um, and his daughter is having a birthday party at the new house, which is this giant mansion, you know, and
Yep.
uh, and he brings his little present, right? He brings his little gift to give to her, and then and then but the new dad, the stepdad, right? He's got like a horse. He's,
Yeah.
and everybody immediately can connect with that, right? Everybody can immediately connect with having been shown up in some situation like that. Um, and immediately like you kind of care about that character just because of that little moment there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how Hollywood um, or writers are able to find those little nuances, or they add those little nuances, and you're like, oh, that must have happened to him. Especially like what people call Easter eggs and stuff like that that are hidden in movies, tied to this person in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And we see that even in storylines of games these days too, a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
someone else getting the job,
Yeah.
like, and you're getting a shit duty instead. And, then that shit duty ends up putting you on the front line of some battle that wasn't supposed to be today.
Right. Right. Um, oh, and I know we got a little sidetracked here because we started talking about art, like what makes an art film and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but to get a little bit back to it, so we were talking about the issue with the issue with AI, uh, and it being actors' images being captured and used, um, potentially without their consent for future ones. So it already has happened
Hmm.
with background actors.
Yeah.
Um, there are background actors who were, in movies that were, that they scanned and then they just, you know, they played them back in, right, into different movies as crowd scenes, those kinds of things. Well, the thing about it is that they got paid a day rate, those folks, right? So they got maybe, I don't know, 150, 200 paid for their day. They worked like probably a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
Um, and that was one time, right? And then that is going to be used in perpetuity, right? So without ever getting paid again. That's kind of a problem, right? Because what is to say that they will ever need background actors for kind of anything except these ones that are like featured background extra, right? Someone who
The
actually
main
like has a
zombies.
line or like hands something to an actor or something.
Yeah.
So it is a concern because I can imagine too, like I you know I don't know that people want that anyway, right? People don't, we know how people reacted to like the digitally scanned folks in Star Wars, right? Like
Yeah.
like it first off, it looks bad. There's it looks really bad still. And the second thing is like usually there's not actually a strong enough reason to have it, you know? Um
Yeah.
and it it upsets folks. And I can imagine like if you are a big actor, you're concerned about them doing this and then you getting a low, like for sure they would argue a lower rate, right? Like they would
Yeah.
definitely like, because imagine how much money you could save if you could just digitally scan, Tom Cruise. And
I was gonna go to Tom Cruise. Have you seen the TikTok? I think it's deep fake Tom or something like that, or deep fake Tom Cruise. That is literally
yeah,
just that. It is deep fakes of Tom Cruise.
yeah, I've seen too. There's like a guy who looks a lot like him too, that like um, that you see online doing stuff. But I wouldn't doubt that like what I wouldn't doubt that the studio already having like tricked people into this too, right? Like the de-aging, like they're like, oh, we're scanning you because we got to do that for the de-aging process, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure that like already we've seen that they've got Harrison Ford younger. Like we saw that, you know, we saw a younger version of Harrison Ford. Uh, you know, still the same gruff old voice in the movie, but you know,
yeah,
but for sure they probably already have that, and you know, I can understand the concerns with that, especially since Hollywood is increasingly becoming just these movies of like huge tent poles, you know?
yeah. I know. I got sidetracked listening to you. Also typing in, going to the deep fake Tom Cruise, deep Tom Cruise Instagram, and I'm watching Judy Bloom redone with the face of, oh my gosh, he played the Goblin in Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, Willem Dafoe.
Yes, William Defoe's face on Judy Bloom singing, uh, you know, to Toto.
Yeah, wave of the future.
Yeah,
This is a wave of the future. We're gonna have people singing these kinds of things, doing all that.
it's the interesting thing. You know, as we see development though, but so I agree with you that being used against our will or without our permission is one thing. But if it's something I'm signing up for, whether I read the small print or not, should there be, like, for instance, actors and actresses and extras all got scanned for the original Avatar movie, you know? Um, and they did well enough face rendering that I'm sure that they could reuse that today. Um, if that's something that they signed up for and not knowing, should they have recourse on that? Do you think?
I mean, I think like you could, you know, and again, this is something they should argue in the contract kind of thing is like, hey, what is the amount in perpetuity, right? Like
Yeah,
what is the amount that is right for them to pay? Like, hey, you know, like if they use a scan of somebody that they had did once, you know, maybe they did, you know, and maybe they determine like, hey, like instead of paying that day rate, you know, you don't have to come in, you don't have to do anything, but we will give you like, you know, half, or we'll give you two-thirds of your day rate
yeah,
automatically. Like you do something like that, I imagine people are not going to be nearly as upset with you because, I mean, you know, they could sit at home on their couch and make money
yeah.
because Hollywood keeps using them in the background of something, and that would be, you know, that would be probably a little less concerning, you know, for them.
Do you? So this is the Degen and me. Do you think there's a solution in blockchain for this?
I mean, um,
If assets are being used, if they're stored on blockchain and they're used, then there can be show proof of them being used.
yeah, I mean, we had it in a way we had kind of talked about this earlier, right? With everybody as a human kind of thing having a, but I the thing is that the necessity for adoption has to be higher than a certain threshold, right? Um, is it, you know, would that being on blockchain, would that be something that would make it a whole lot easier for studios and those individuals involved with it, or would or and then also not only that, but like the time for them to adopt that system, right? As long as those things are a yes, then it's possible. I struggle to like envision exactly how that would work. um, there's probably absolutely a solution that could be a blockchain thing that does that, but I just I can't I can't quite see it, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, at least I think maybe, where, you know stored on chain, so like data isn't lost, and then it's
Yeah,
just triggered, and there. But not every solution has to be on chain, you know. But
yeah.
then, but does it have to also be decentralized, and or is that just, um I don't know the right term, happy thoughts, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately, like, ultimately the question always becomes, like we're trying to offer a simplified solution, right? Um, because if we offer a more complex solution than anything else, then it will likely not be adopted. People still use systems. We see them doing it, right? We see them using archaic systems that,
Cobalt still leads the financial industry in programming. So yeah,
yeah.
on the legacy format.
So people still use archaic systems if the cost for adoption or the difficulty for adoption is over the threshold of continuing to use what they have, right?
Yeah.
They would rather just, okay, and I mean specifically with that, maybe it's also got to do with personnel as well, right? Like, hey, we've got the people that can do this. We've got, so there's probably a lot of moving parts, the reason why that happens, um, but we always need to, like, I think that your quick hits or your products that are really going to do well in this, and the chains that are really going to do well in blockchain, are going to be offering a solution that simplifies some aspect of the world that is exceedingly complex, that
Hmm.
people are willing to adopt, um,
Yeah.
and and for sure that's out there, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, of course, like, in hindsight, we're all going to be like, oh my God, of course it was this one. This one was, of course, the one. Like, how did I not see it? Or,
Yeah.
or hopefully we all see it and we all end up investing in it and getting rich. So we'll see.
Hey, I had a token the other day, 56x, you
There you
know,
go.
after like 6 months. And, you just never know.
Yeah. All it
But,
takes is one bit of good news, but like for every
yeah,
one bit of good news, you have like 1,000 bits of bad news that probably, depends on which tokens you got though, for sure.
yeah, definitely. But then there's um, there's actors, or organizations that believe that, a lot of this should be regulated, and that, you know, people shouldn't have these large of wins this quickly. It's not good for the economy, you know. Um, and in one aspect, I can see that, if everyone has $1 million, well, then, you know, the price of things will just naturally go up. We see
Yeah.
this in disproportionately right now, just in like supermarkets based on where they are. The same thing might cost a little bit more in one area than it might in another, but it's the same exact item. And it's just because their target, they know their target audience, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so, um, if everyone's a millionaire, is anyone?
Um, well, yeah, everyone is.
Yeah. Well, that comes to if everyone's special, is anyone special?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
You know.
it's the Incredibles thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
But no, I know last time we talked about some of the different chains that were doing some gaming stuff. We talked really big on Oasis.
Yeah.
Any other gaming chains that have your eye right now?
I mean, I think that I've been like Avalanche every time that every time AVAX has anything, it's like, they've been for sure doing a lot of good stuff for the games that are on their chain too, because I we've seen it like at conferences and everything that they will just they'll have a booth and they'll just invite games to like show that happen to be on Avalanche to showcase there, and I think that that behavior of kind of operating as a chain but also kind of as a publisher a little bit, right? That's kind
Hmm.
of the thing to do, because that ultimately the way you get mass adoption if you're a Web3 gaming chain is having some game that's on your chain hit.
Yeah,
Um, and so it's definitely worth it to seek out to help aid the games that are on your chain, and then also like not only that but like to be on the lookout for those things that apply, like I think I don't think the thing with games is I don't think that the great ideas um, are too difficult to see. I think that if a great game idea comes across your desk, it's pretty easy to say like, "Hey, this really has something."
yeah.
Because and I'm still, I still I still think it's not quite there in Web3 yet. I think we have games that are doing unique stuff, but they're still very close to something in Web 2. So much so that they're not, that unless they really, iterate and innovate in some way, they're probably not gonna get the kinds of numbers that, even this what is it? What is the one that came out recently? Something it's beating Call of Duty on uh is it Bad Company?
Okay.
Or no, it's not Bad Company. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. It's something company. Oh man, I can't remember the name of this. You'll have to look it up after this, but or look it up now as I'm talking about it maybe. I would, but I'm on my phone. But it's killing, and it's a $10 indie game, and it is crushing it right now
Okay.
because it's a co-op thing where like you go to like these other planet or something and you like mine and do all this kind of stuff, but it's like apparently super fun. um and on Steam it's outselling Call of Duty.
I know there's
So
Star Atlas. That one's sort of like that.
so this one's a Web 2 game. I'm talking about a
Oh,
Web
okay.
2 game that's on Steam. So
Okay.
probably if you go to just front page of Steam, it's going to show up. But it's something company. Anyway, once we get some version of that in Web3, you know, not particularly that style of game, but like, I mean, one that hits like that, then you know, that's going to be the big, that's going to be the
Lethal
big
Company.
draw. Lethal Company, yeah, that's the name of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's doing quite well, and I think it's something crazy. It's like one dev or something that built that. Um,
They always
so
say
it's
that, but that's never the case.
yeah, it's probably one dev with like a team of 20 people behind him. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how long it took him to build it. It's possible one dev to build a
Well,
FPS crafting
like
game.
some of the stuff that you can do in Unreal, um, with the entire asset library that's
Yeah,
available is just crazy. You
yeah.
can one person can make a world in you know two
Yeah,
hours.
it's to me it's kind of crazy because like or, just a year ago or something, like, right, everybody was kind of poo-pooing on these games that like had assets from the asset store in them, but
Yeah.
like some of the top selling indie games like of all time on Steam use asset store assets, like Phasmophobia being a perfect example. Like all of the sets, all of the houses, the haunted houses in Phasmophobia are from the asset store. Guy
Yeah.
got downloaded them from the asset store. What makes a good game is not just it's not just the originality of the art assets, right? It's gameplay, right? It's about
Storyline.
that storyline, gameplay. It's the melding of all the two, and there's no one particular thing, right? Because some games the storyline will be the thing that sells it. Some games will be, the gameplay that sells it.
Yeah. How
Some will be the
playable, how
art.
fun it is.
Yeah,
Like there was the one game, what was it? Up, I think,
uh,
where you were
uh,
just climbing different levels. You were just climbing.
yeah. Basically yeah.
And that was just like, like a Fortnite build in a way.
Yeah, it was a take on that Bennett Foddy Getting Over It game
Yeah.
from years ago,
I
which
still, oh, what were you going to say?
no, which really, like, if you're smart too, you'll look back at trends, because that there's like a there's like a whatever, it came out in 2023. Did it come out this year? Or I think it came out this year, end of last year, that game.
Yeah.
And then the Bennett Foddy one came out, I think, in 2017 or something. So you've got like a 5 year something cycle, right, where people have forgotten about a game from 5 years ago that was a real big hit. You can
Yeah.
just do kind of like, obviously you don't do exactly that game, but you like at least take the core experience that game was, and then iterate on it now, uh, and
Do you
buku
think
loads of stuff.
it's a resurgence for ET then?
That probably. I know right now in books there's a resurgence for dragons, right?
Yeah.
Everything's dragons.
Dragons,
Oh,
monsters, from like Witcher and Game of Thrones, sort of classic tale, you know? It's
yeah,
sort of interesting. Um,
yeah.
you're going to laugh at me. I only have 3 games in my Steam account.
Okay. Magic the Gathering.
Yep.
Okay. Um. Uh. Hmm. Team Fortress 2. No, probably
Nope.
not.
Nope.
That's a
We
good
played
game.
this game. We tried to play this game.
Oh. Barotrauma.
Mm-hmm.
God,
Yep.
that game is we'll have to play that sometime, because I really want to test that thing out. Like, I really
Yeah.
want to play that game with it.
I'll have to work on
Um,
getting myself access back to it because it says I own it, but it's like tries to tell me my account doesn't own it when I try to play it, and it's weird. So, um,
yeah.
the third game is Meta Rides,
Meta
like a
rides.
Meta Rides.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Meta rides.
Yep. Car garage, whole piece on chain with Polygon and stuff. It's some cool stuff. I know the team, and so I've been playing that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you know who Sandy Carter is from Unstoppable Domains.
No, I don't.
She has one of the times to beat right now, and
Oh wow. Okay.
she's this lady that you wouldn't really expect to have a big to know Web3 or metaverse, just looking at her. But she does like whole educational pieces in the metaverse. She's awesome, Unstoppable Sandy. Um,
Awesome.
but she showed a video once at a conference I was a speaker at, where she was like, we tried to teach some people first how to use this metaverse, Sandbox, because
Yeah.
that's where we taught this class. And she's like, as you can see from this screen recording, that person that's up there standing on the roof that can't get down is my Harvard professor who couldn't get down because he didn't want to take the preliminary how-to course. And there's this like little avatar that's like stuck up on the ceiling piece. It's sort of hilarious.
That's so cool.
But yeah, no, there's just and then other games I've been playing, Parallel, been playing that because it has a lot of Magic the Gathering vibe. And then a little bit of it's almost like a little bit of a dungeon game, but it's really bright and is like NFT Hero on Tron.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, my NFT Hero, and so those are the games I've been playing on PC. But then like play Honeyland, Blast Royale, Geno Pets. I've sort of rounded out my mobile games on Web3 as well. There's a few others, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't know any games on your any Web3 games on your radar.
Yeah, I mean, I need to kind of look back into them. It's been a while since I've checked in on any Web3 games. I've given them some time to develop,
Okay.
so to speak. But I will say that, like, so I mentioned earlier, so friend Greg, Greg Barud, he is his company just came out of Stealth. Were building here a studio in Los Angeles, and it's with Dan Houser from Rockstar.
Okay.
So it's called Absurd Ventures, and they're gonna start. They're doing IP across multimedia. So like they're going to do comics and stuff like that. They are not Web3 that I know of. But again, they just announced, like, I think they announced either earlier this month or like around October, maybe somewhat. So it's very, 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 very fresh. And they've announced that they have two different IPs, I guess, that are coming up, and I think it's comics and an audio experience or something, and they're coming up in, I think, early 2024. So people should just check that out. So Absurd Ventures is the company. That should be a good one. The other one that I wanted to mention, again, not a Web3 thing, but one of my ex friends, not past friends, but friends on X. God,
Twitter. Just say Twitter.
Yeah, let's please say Twitter. This is just, it
It's
just
like a
doesn't work
Q-tip
the other way.
versus a cotton swab. They're
Yeah,
all
that's
Q-tips.
true. Yeah. Anyway, Chantal, she has a dark web streamer, it's called.
Okay.
It's supposed to be kind of like she just put up the trailer for it on Steam, and actually, so now it can be like wish listed or something. So and it's been a while, and excellent taste in games. So so I'm sure she will. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, because if you like the LucasArts kinds of things, from like LucasArts and point and click adventure games or whatever, I don't think it is that, but like that's the kind of taste she's got. So that should be,
Procedurally generated psycho horror streamer simulation game.
yes, that's correct. So it's
Become the number one streamer or die.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy and fun, I think. So for sure, people should check that out. That's obviously can only be wish listed right now, but she's hard to work on that. So
okay, heck yeah,
and that's kind of that's the two things. So you said what's on my radar? I guess that's the two things on my radar. Yeah. Although I'm not gonna lie, I have been seeing the videos of the Call of Duty, and I've been saying, Maybe I need to
Mm.
get back into it. It kind of looks cool. Kind of looks cool.
All right. There's some
Yeah.
cool stuff. There's some cool stuff coming out. I've been eyeing. There's some new games almost that remind me of like the classic runs and ZZ, horse racing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, that's coming out, and I just
What
like
is
some
the
of the new
hot?
takes.
What is the hot like? What is the gaming chain now? Right now, like would you
Right
say
now,
for
um,
for yeah, November 30th of 2023? We should
well,
specify.
shoot, it's December 1st where I'm at. So,
Uh-oh. Oh yeah. So what is it for December 1st then? Because then
um, I
that's
think with
perfect.
upcoming, or at least that have good trailer videos, um, would be maybe Sui Network. Um, there seems to be some cool stuff coming out on Near, with
Okay.
that are built on Near.
Oh yeah,
Um,
near.
and I like some of the games that are coming out on Solana, and some of the back end there. Um, Polygon has a good mix, and these are playable games that, and then obviously what Avalanche is building out, there's some cool stuff there. I don't know if a chain has stepped forward yet. Phantasma is still working to build itself out,
Yeah.
and announce itself as the gamer chain. Um, So
Yeah.
there's some cool stuff happening on Moonbeam, but these are with like predictive market games almost. And I use predictive markets as a, analytics tool to where you give it variables and then it runs multiple simulations and then it picks the most random situation and plays it out. So you don't really get to like, once you pick your variables, your engine type, your captain, and like your spaceship and like your weapons, that's it, hands off, you know?
Gotcha.
And so, um, yeah, I just played a new game on Pegasus on Lightlink. Um, the the Red Victory or something like that, or
Red Victory.
yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's what it was. Is what I played. I don't. I did a quest on Galaxy, to showcase some new chains the other night, and that was one of the ones that came up.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to check some of those out.
that one is it's you pick your two types of heroes and they get bred to get together, and then you can choose. You go to your opponent and you choose your fighting method, and then you just hands off, and it,
Gotcha.
it predetermines, and it filled some time.
Yeah.
But parallel, base I guess would be a sleeper with some of the games that are
Okay.
coming out on base.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting. Base.
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 Ooh,
Base you.
base. Base you. Base me very much. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, but man, this has been a minute, so thanks for joining through.
Yeah. Wow. We've been going 2 hours here. I
Yeah.
hope everybody's ears are not bleeding.
Oh no, don't worry. They all left a long time ago.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. No. We I think only a handful of people, like, I'm going to take a moment, reset the room. I just want to shout out to everyone that's joining us via LinkedIn, YouTube 1, YouTube channel 2, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, Unlonely, and Kick for thank you for joining us. Shout out to everyone that is I see over in Kick joining us right now, so thanks. Same with Unlonely and Rumble. Um, we got I have another screen running like 5 chat channels. So,
Wow.
and then broadcasting to Farcaster for the heck of it. So,
Wow.
but no, this has been a good time. So, how we end every show. We end every show the same way. You get to end with your final thoughts and words of wisdom.
Okay, yes. So, final thoughts and words of wisdom. So, I will give something for each thing. Let's go with so first I will say books. Okay, so like if you're writing something, remember that that books are made of words. Great books are just made of the right ones. So work on getting the right words, and
Okay.
easy as pie. Um, games. So games. Let's say that games are made are remade. They're not made. They're remade, right? So actually, that's kind of true of books too, right? You just got to kind of keep reiterating and doing stuff. Uh, but but for I think earlier we talked about it, and that was kind of the final thought that I would like to leave folks with, which is like, if you're developing something, or even if you're just finding some game out there to join in on, that you're like looking for something to believe in, pick something uh, that the people behind it are passionate about, that you too can find some passion in, um, and go with that, right? Like, don't go don't go into this saying like, hey, I think that this one has the chance to be the biggest game that ever existed. Instead, I think find something that you like, right? Find a game that you like and that you're passionate about, because ultimately you're you can have an effect on it, right?
Mhm.
And you can have a positive effect on the game developers. You can have a positive effect on other players. Just do that or something. And then let's see. So wait, I said three things. What was the third thing? What was the third thing I was going to say?
Movies.
Um, Movies, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, movies, yeah. Like, uh, again, well, across all art, right? That it can be that it can be transcendental, right? All these things can be transcendental, and I think that the key thing is to kind of look for things that build empathy, and that's it. That's all I got. That's the last thought I got. Oh, and AI. Okay, so one last thing on AI, right? It's coming for your job. So that's it.
All right. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's coming for your job.
Just slowly. It's a slow march towards your job.
Okay.
So have several jobs, not just one.
Yeah. And well, or it's coming to make your job better,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
easier, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, but exactly that. Well, that's going to happen first, for sure. It's
Yeah.
going to help your job first, and then one day they're going to be like, sorry, but we decided to hire the robot.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Does that, yeah. All right. That's some thoughts there. Um,
Those were thoughts. That's all I
yeah.
could say about them, is they were
Any words
kind
of
of
wisdom?
thoughts. Words of wisdom. I think that the one word of wisdom that I had was pretty good. That, books are made of words. I think that that's a good word of wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Good books are
Yeah,
made of the right words.
that's it. That's right.
Yeah.
Good books are made of the right words. So pick the right words.
All right. And as I end every show episode, I want to thank everyone for joining us for your Daily Bite of Degen, episode number 468, talking with Derek Laporte. You can find him on Twitter at DEREKLAPORTE, Derek Laporte. Find him, follow him, and see what he's into, because he's into some fun stuff,
Yeah,
as you can
yeah.
tell from this.
I'll post if people follow me. I'll actually post something, maybe.
Yay!
For
All
every
right.
10 likes on a previous post, I'll post a new one. I think that's the thing that's going on now, right? Every
Likes for
10
work.
likes. Yeah, yeah.
All right. That met. Oh, you've been gone from Twitter for a while. That meta is gone.
Oh, that was yesterday.
Yep, that was yesterday.
Okay, all right. Now
Yep,
today's meta is different. I know.
yep. Now everyone's talking about Portal Coin.
Portal coin, gotcha. I'm gonna
Don't,
have to
yeah,
look
don't,
this up
don't,
after this is
nope,
over.
don't look it up.
I'm gonna fall
Don't
in a portal
engage.
coin.
Don't engage. Do not. Yeah, every bat whistle Spidey sense on me goes nose.
Okay, I'm putting every dollar that I have in this.
And you're probably gonna make millions. You put the $10, you're gonna make millions, and that's how I help Web3 grow. I either
Perfect.
sell and it goes
Sell.
up, or I don't buy and it goes up.
There you go. That's the
So
best thing to do. Yeah,
yeah,
I feel the same way with my college football team. Like if I watch, they lose. So I just don't watch.
okay, and
Yeah.
they still lose.
I probably, yeah, because their quarterback got injured. So
Now you don't, but now you don't know. So it's a Schrodinger's situation.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. All right. Well, perfect. And so I end with my thoughts and words of wisdom is a closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth, meaning if no one knows you're looking for opportunity can never come a knocking. If opportunity does come a knocking and no one answers, it's going to keep on walking. And with that, because you're here, you get to help with the greatest, worst knock joke, Derek. We have ended 467 shows with this joke.
Okay. Knock knock. Wait, no.
No.
No,
Knock,
you're doing the knock knock. Okay.
knock, knock.
Sorry, I'm real slow with I can't hardly hear. Go ahead.
Knock, knock.
Oh, geez. Who is it?